All right, Alexander, let's talk about Russiagate. But let's talk about the fact that no one talks about Russiagate anymore. So in 2016, the Russians spent, I don't know, I've heard different ranges. I've heard $4,000 on Facebook to $100,000 on Facebook and Google. Anyway, whatever it is, whether it's $4,000 or $100,000, the Russians spent that much money in order to turn the entire election against Hillary and towards Trump. 100K investment or 4K investment, and they subverted the entire democracy of the United States of America. They swayed voters' opinions by the millions, and they got their man, Trump, into the White House, who coincidentally was a puppet of Putin. For many years, Putin was grooming him so that he could enter the White House and pull out from strategic nuclear treaties, sanction the Russians, arm the Ukrainians, because that's what the Russians wanted. But that was the grand scheme of things. I mean, you actually had the Young Turks. I think Cenk Uygur was arguing that the fact that Trump had mentioned that the sanctions weren't working, or that he may pull back from the sanctions, was absolute evidence that he was a puppet of Putin. And I just felt like, getting on his show and just going to him and saying, the sanctions really did help the Russians to a certain extent, if you knew anything about what was going on in Russia. And Trump was actually quite right that the sanctions, in a way, helped Russia decouple from the system and help them make their own stuff and help their economy grow. You can get into that if you want. But anyway, we're 2020. There's no Russian meddling. There's no foreign interference whatsoever from anybody, And these elections are, of course, free and fair and zero fraud whatsoever. Exactly. Even though they stopped in the middle of the night, you had vans, you had trucks, you had busted water pipes. Anyway, everyone's been following us and following other channels knows exactly what happened during these elections. But Russiagate, poof, and these elections, clean, absolutely clean.
Absolutely. And you forgot to mention that, without all this Russian interference, Donald Trump won 71 million votes this time, whereas he only won 62 million votes with all that Russian interference back in 2016. It is absolutely astonishing how this story, this hoax, this Russian hoax, interference hoax, has now just been, forgotten. I mean, we spent 4 years. We spent massive investigations. We've had prosecutions. We've had people being, driven to absolute distraction. But when it came to it, when there was an actual election, which, the Democrats claim to have won, all that interference is gone. Nobody even talks about it. I've been going through newspaper article after article. I've been going through all of the media that have been so hostile to Trump, which have kept Russiagate going so relentlessly. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the Atlantic, the New Yorker, Politico, all of them. And it's amazing to see how Russiagate, this vast edifice that we were spending all those hours drilling through, has now just vanished. It's as if it never existed. It's just gone. I mean, it never happened. It's a bad dream from which we've all apparently now woken up. It's quite remarkable. And it tells you two things. Firstly, it tells you conclusively, not that Russiagate was nonsense, we always knew that, but it tells you that the people who were telling you that it was not nonsense always knew that it was nonsense, because if they really believed in it, they would still be obviously talking about it and explaining why this time it didn't make the difference that it's allegedly made in 2016. So, they knew that it was nonsense. They knew that it was nonsense. And it also tells you that, frankly, they're not to be trusted in anything else they say, because they spent 4 years peddling a story which they cannot have believed in. And when they tell us now to, think about other things, we need to remember that they spent 4 years floating this hoax past us. And it was a hoax with consequences. It paralyzed Donald Trump well, it didn't paralyze him, but it massively restricted many of the things he wanted to do. It put him under tremendous pressure, and think of the psychological pressure he must have been under when he was being investigated and reinvestigated all the time in this relentless fashion. And of course, those investigations have affected lots of people who were illegally surveyed, as in the case of Carter Page, who are in prison, as is the case of Paul Manafort, who've got convictions like Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos and Roger Stone. So, you know, it was a political inquisition conducted in the most cynical way by people who obviously didn't believe in its truth.
Yeah. And of course, you know, with Russiagate, you had a phony dossier created by a girl in Cyprus who was gossiping with her boyfriend, who happened to know Christopher Steele, a completely unverified dossier, which made claims that there was a consulate in Miami and that Trump was in the Radisson or the Ritz-Carlton in Red Square, and he did some things on a bed because Obama did those things on the bed. Anyway, completely unverified, but we had to investigate the crap out of it for 4 years, including appointing a special counsel. But now, with the mountains of evidence that we have, the audio, the video, the eyewitnesses that we have, nothing happened. It was clean. It was clean.
I know. Well, you're referring to Biden, I presume.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Biden thing. No, we're not allowed to investigate that. That's all unverified. Even though, as you said, we got all the actual evidence of the one case, and all the rest was just absolute nonsense. I mean, this is where, as I said, we need to remember this. I don't know how much more time we're going to spend with Russiagate now, even on this channel, because realistically, I mean, this story, this is now, we don't need to, it seems to me, analyze those allegations anymore, because every single part of them has been discredited. And it's quite clear that those who peddle them don't believe in them themselves. But we must never forget, the fiction that was sold to us for 4 years around Russiagate. It was every bit as bad as WMD in Iraq. It was worse, actually, because WMD in Iraq was about a foreign country. Russiagate was about the president of the United States and about an election, and it was all about a power struggle conducted within the United States. And if you seriously, really believe that Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Haspel and Brennan and Clapper really were taken in by, a girl in Cyprus who was also, by the way, inserting into that dossier nasty things about her boss, well, I have a bridge to sell you.
Well, I mean, look, the Iraq WMD thing, that was a massive lie that had massive consequences for decades and still has consequences today. Absolutely. And I think Russiagate will prove to be the same effect. It'll have massive consequences for years, if not decades down the line. Yeah. I also think that, unfortunately, I think the big, the sad part about all of this, the frustrating part about all of this, is that should Trump not get elected at the end of the day, and if he doesn't decide to release the documents, which I think he should do no matter what, but say he doesn't decide to release all the Russiagate documents into the public, we're never going to really know all the details as to what was going on. Barr and Durham failed completely. They should have had indictments because they had all the evidence and they didn't do anything. So we're really losing the actual evidence of the truth. I mean, we're not going to be able to actually read those documents and say, okay, we were right when we connected these dots, or hey, that was something that I wasn't expecting over there from what Comey said or something. And you're also going to have, we have to be honest, if Biden, if Sleepy Joe and Kamala get into the White House and, you know, this charade that they're pulling on us actually succeeds, you're going to have people who were involved in Russiagate actually get promoted. For example, they're saying Sally Yates could be
Yeah.
the attorney general. I mean,
Correct.
people that tried to overthrow an elected president are going to actually get promoted.
I know. I mean, this is the point. Russiagate is going to have consequences for decades because it inserted a poison into the American political system. It was a sustained attempt to delegitimize and overturn the results of a presidential election. And the need for these investigations, the need why we need to have it investigated, is more important even than holding some of these people who did these things to account. Though that is not unimportant. As I said, they're not held to account. They may always do it again. They will think they can do it again, and they will do it again. But over and above that, if you don't investigate it, then all that poison will always be there. You need to draw that poison out, which is why those investigations are necessary. But you're absolutely right. I can't imagine that a Biden administration will ever want to do that. Though I have to also say, I can't imagine a Senate headed with a majority, with a Republican majority, ever confirming Sally Yates as Attorney General. But that's, things I can't. There's lots of things I couldn't imagine, and they happened anyway. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, but they will get off. I mean,
oh yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's the point. I mean, that is exactly the point. And it's not just Sally Yates; it's lots of other people. Many of them, of course, still there in the bureaucracy. I mean, there's been no clear out in the FBI. Many of the people who were involved in all that, Pfizer surveillance, for example, are still there. There's been no clear out in the Justice Department. And of course, the CIA, we haven't even looked at. We don't even know who did what within the CIA, because all the scrutiny fell on the FBI, and the CIA side of the story has never been told.
Yeah, and another part that we have to mention is even if these people like Yates or Strzok or Comey, all these people that were involved in this soft coup against Trump in 2016, even if they don't get into a Biden administration, they're going to get rewarded. They'll get their board, their board of directors at Netflix. They'll get their book deals. They'll get rewarded on the backside, on the back end of things.
Many of them are already being rewarded. I mean, you can't switch on CNN, it seems to me, without sooner or later coming across Brennan and Clapper and all those people. But you're quite right. I mean, they will be rewarded. They will be rewarded even more. And that is, again, something which completely goes against any sense of fairness.
Yeah. All right, Alexander, your dog is saying to wrap up the video, so we are going to wrap it up. Guys, please click that subscribe button, PayPal, Patreon, Subscribe Star. Also check your subscribe button because YouTube is unsubscribing people, so make sure you're still connected to us. And another great way you can make sure you're connected to us is to sign up at BitChute and at ODYSEE. You'll find the links in the description box down below. Just sign up to BitChute or ODYSEE. We're at 7,000. We're close to 7,000 subscribers. Let's get to 10. And think of it as a fail-safe. In case something ever were to happen, you'll have us on BitChute and on ODYSEE as well, so we can continue to do our videos. And actually, these platforms are getting a lot of traction now, and that's good. It makes sense that they're getting a lot of traction, and that is a good thing. Also, go to the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise. We've got shirts, mugs, hoodies, all kinds of things. And the Patriotic Legacy, the Patriot Beacon, Duran 20. They have a contest. Use Duran 20, and you get 20% off. And you're entered into the contest to win this exact flashlight, the Patriot Beacon color black, the black Patriot Beacon flashlight, along with a Duran shirt with our logo across the chest. Duran 20, Patriotic Legacy. You'll find a link for that shop and that contest in the description box down below.
Absolutely. The best flashlight in the world, made in the United States, ships all over the world, beautifully made, incredibly strong, phenomenally rugged. It is an exceptional flashlight in every way. And I absolutely would not go anywhere now in the dark without mine. And of course, just to remind our viewers, we have the best mugs in the world. This one with the flag of the United States. And we've also got amazing shirts like the ones that Alex and I are wearing, long sleeve t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts, brilliant polo shirts. We've got hoodies, we've got hats, we've got stickers, we've got wonderful things. You will find the best products anywhere in our shop. And by coming to our shop, you support us. And please do find us on all those platforms that Alex was mentioning. And please come to us at Subscribestar and Patreon. And because, of course, we depend on our viewers. And at the same time, we give our best to our viewers. And please look out for our next broadcast.
All right. Alexander Mercouris, thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.